Hello, and welcome to episode 19 of 10,000 Stitches Podcast, a weekly chit chat all about the joys of sock knitting. My name is Andy, and I like to make socks, and I hope that you do too. Let's see, let's do the introductions. Today's a weird day. I'll get into it. Let's do the introductions. So my name's Andy. If you wanted to find me on the internet, you can find me on most social media as Purlbug, Purlbug. That's Instagram, Twitter, Ravelry. That's my handle on all of those. You can also find my website at thepurlbug.com. And I have a Ravelry group for the 10,000 Stitches podcast. Let's see, if you are watching this and you want to find any patterns or anything that I've linked, if you're watching this on YouTube, then in the description box below the video will be a link to the blog post that goes with this episode, and you can click through to that, and that will have any patterns, podcasts, shops, anything like that linked. Similarly, if you're in the thread on the Ravelry group, everything will be linked below the video there as well. So basically just YouTube because it gets messy. I am currently recording on Monday, April 11th, dramatic turn of events. Normally I record on Sundays. Today I'm recording on Monday, and that's going to be a plus because I have something that just came in the mail that I get to show you guys. Also, it's been a heck of a Monday, so I will talk all about that in my chit-chat stuff. But we're going to follow the same format that we usually do. I'm just looking at my notes right now. So we'll talk about FOs, works in progress, what's coming up next, talk about the knit-along, question of the week, Fiber Festival stuff, and then we'll do chit-chat. So, yeah. Okay. As you can see, I am dressed like a proper grown-up. That's because I just came home from work. So yeah, I figured, you guys don't get to see me dressed nicely very often. Not like, I was wearing jeans on the bottom, so it's not like I really do anything else fancy. And I'm not gonna lie, I am currently also wearing shorts on the bottom because it was too hot. And I guess I'll show you what's on my feet, even though it's not exciting. I'm just wearing a pair of commercially made socks because I've been having problems. Normally I wear Converse, and I've been having problems when I've been wearing my hand knits and my Converse. I think my Converse are just a little bit too tight around my toes, and so the extra space taken up by fluffy knitted socks means that, my toes get squished. And I just realized I didn't bother to check and see. Oh, good. Okay. I wasn't sure what microphone I was using. Let's see. Okay. Let's talk about finished objects. So, finished objects this week, I have my snozberry socks. The snozberries taste like snozberries. Anyway, so these are my snozberry socks. These are made with yarn from Kim Dyes Yarn. And I'm trying to get, there we go. So I will, of course, link to the pattern. I don't remember the name of the pattern designer. I think it's Rachel Coopy, but I could be wrong. The yarn is from Kim Dyes Yarn. Like I said, it's a 75-25 Corriedale nylon blend. Oh, come on, camera focus. There we go. It's a 75-25 Corriedale nylon blend in the colorway Blackberry. This was my first time working with Corriedale, and it was nice. It reminds me of a slightly more refined Patton's Kroy. I did this, I talked about this last week, but the sizing for these socks are a little bit goofy, and so I did it as a 72 stitch sock because I did not do the patterning on the back. I just did the back of the leg plain. So I did I think 3 pattern repeats, then I did the heel, and then it was a total of 7.5 pattern repeats before I got down to the toe. And yeah, I finished these the other day. They're a little bit small for me, a little bit short in terms of length. So I'm not entirely sure that I will keep them for myself. I might wind up gifting them away to my mom for Mother's Day. That seems appropriate. But yeah, so they are done. I suppose I can show you both of them. Doop, 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 doop. And yeah, I enjoyed this pattern, especially because once I kind of got the hang of it, so this is both of them. Whoop. I did the patterning down onto the toe. That was kind of fun. I've kind of been enjoying doing that, especially because with cable patterns, it just seems to lend itself so well to that. But anyway, the nice thing about these was that once I kind of got the hang of the pattern, I was able to read my work and I didn't have to be constantly looking at the chart. So that's always enjoyable. I prefer that. Yeah, that's those. These took me 2 weeks, which was kind of annoying, but what can you do? So that's my finished object. And then I accidentally cut myself off. I set my notes back down and they must have pushed a button on my keyboard and it was like, oh, you're done recording. Whoops. Anyway, so yeah, so that was my finished object, the Snozzberries. This is how much yarn I had left, so quite a fair amount. And I actually, I think it was last week or the week before, I don't remember, I showed my Happypotamus, which I just realized I totally forgot to link that pattern and I said I would. So I'll try and remember to this week. Anyway, I showed my Happypotamus, which I can go grab him now in case you guys want to see him. Ugh. So this was the Happypotamus, big crocheted hippo. Anyway, so I talked about how this was made modularly. And I've also, I think, talked before about how I've tried different like scrappy blankets before and they just never quite work. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, I could make a scrappy Happypotamus. Like a scrapopotamus. A scrapopotamus! So that's what I think I'm going to start doing. Instead of like a, sock yarn blanket, I'll do a sock yarn scrapopotamus. But I do need a little bit of help with that because I have no idea what crochet hook would be good for sock yarn. So if you crochet with sock yarn, let me know what size hook you use because I have no crochet hooks here. Let me know what size you use and then I'll make a scrapopotamus and that will be super fun. Anyway, back on topic. Let's talk about work in progress. So I had said that my next pattern coming up was going to be the brainless socks, and I am not making the brainless socks. I was planning on doing those, having not really looked at the pattern much, and then I looked at the pattern and I realized that it was for toe up, which is fine. I have no problem either doing toe up or adapting to top down, but it was written for a like faux heel flap and gusset, and I hate doing those toe up. I just totally refused to do it. And it didn't really seem like I could adapt the pattern easily to go the other way. And I just didn't want to deal with that. So I chose a different pattern. But first I'm going to show you the yarn. So this is the yarn that I'm using. This is the yarn that I got from the Expat Yarn Swap. And it is by Fleece Artist in the colorway Forest Fairies. Or Forest Fairy? Whatever. So this is what it looks like up close. Very beautiful colors. Some like browns and greens and purples and teals. And like, I don't want to say that like any one ball of yarn is more special to me than any other, but like this is kind of special to me because like, I don't know, it seems special and I just really wanted to make something special with it. So I went searching around for other, cable patterns that I thought would really do well with a highly variegated yarn like this. And I settled on the pattern Drachenschwingen. And that's probably horrible. My German's really rusty. But it basically is supposed to mean dragon's wings. And also, I apologize if it's really loud. There's a lot of traffic outside because it's like rush hour and we live on a busy street. So anyway, it's German and it means dragon's wings. And I guess it's supposed to be inspired by Game of Thrones, which I'm not really into. But I just really liked it. And it's really pretty. And so this is what it looks like so far. I started these the other day and I'm on the heel flap right now. And come on, focus. Focus. There we go. So it's just very, oh, come on. Simple sort of like 1x1 cables. Come on. I'm just not having a day today with technology. It's like 1x1 cables, and it reminds me a lot of like the twisted socks. Why do I always do this? Why do I always put my hand in the wrong way? Anyway, but that's what it looks like, and it's so pretty, and I think it works so well with this yarn. And I think like this yarn especially looks good with like the purling and everything, and this is kind of what the back looks like. So it's not a plain back, but it definitely shows off like the character of the yarn. And I'm really enjoying this pattern. It's definitely not a pattern where I can read my knitting and know exactly what to do. Like I do still need the pattern or the charts for the pattern. But it's at least intuitive enough that I can kind of look at what row I'm on and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'm on that row. And I don't need to look at the pattern the whole way across the row, kind of once I know which row I'm on. So that I consider to be not so bad. So yeah, I really like this pattern. It's really fun. I'm enjoying it a lot and I'm excited to get the rest of this sock knit up. Like I said, I'm on the heel flap for this one. So hopefully I will maybe get through the heel turn tonight. I don't know, I have a couple other things I need to get done tonight. But yeah, I'm super excited about these. So that's my work in progress. And then what's coming up next? So I mentioned last week that my next pair of socks was going to be the business casual socks. And I'm going to be using this yarn for it. Let's see if it'll, which is Wildfoot, which is a 75-25 wool nylon. Come on, focus. You know you want to. Anyway, it's this very pretty kind of like blacks and grays and like a little bit of purple. And I am going to be making these socks for Wesley. I think it will be a good pattern for him. The yarn is nice and subtle without being so boring that I don't want to knit with it. And yeah, I'm excited to try them out, especially because I'm really enjoying like the Drachenschwingen, like the 1x1 cables on that. And so I think business casual will be fun as well. So that's what will be next. And then after that, I'm not sure how long, like where it is that I'm going to finish up with these, because work has been crazy, but it should get less crazy very soon. But after that, I've decided I'm finishing my little cable knee-high, the second one. I'm not excited about it. I don't want to knit it, but I am determined to finish it before I finish cables. Like, I don't want to leave it hanging, because if I don't finish it before I finish this, like, kind of theme of, like, cables, I'm just going to let it sit forever, and I want to finish it. So I'm determined I'm going to finish that one next, and if I have more time, then I'll keep going, but on like the other socks in my queue. But if nothing else, I'm going to do the business casuals, and I'm going to do those cable knee-highs before we're done, before this month is over. Grr. Which I guess leads me right into talking about the knit-along. Segue. And I don't know why my camera, there we go. It's a Monday, y'all. Anyway, so the knit-along, we have 2.5 weeks left. You guys will be seeing this at the earliest on Tuesday, April 12th. Maybe it's my fingers doing this, it doesn't like. Anyway, you guys will be seeing this at the earliest on Tuesday, April 12th. So we have about 2.5 weeks left in this knit-along for cables. So definitely still enough time, I think, to do a pair of like zigzagulars or socks on a plane. If you can do, you know, normal vanilla socks in that kind of time, I don't see why you can't do those, because they're pretty simple. So yeah, definitely still enough time to get in on that. And I got my prizes in today. When I wrote up my notes yesterday, I was pretty sure that like I was going to get the prizes like middle of this week, and I was going to be like, darn it, I wanted to show them, but I actually got them today. Go figure. I guess that's the benefit of ordering something within Virginia. So I can show them to you guys. I'm super excited. So one of these, I bought 2 skeins of yarn. One is going to be a prize for this knit-along, and one will be a prize for a future knit-along or something else. I just wanted to snag both of these because they were so pretty that I couldn't let them go away, because I think they're one-of-a-kind colorways. So yeah, okay. And I just totally destroyed the wrapper. But anyway, they are from, let me, okay. They are from a shop here in Virginia that I've ordered from before called PhD Yarns. PhD Yarns. And this is actually the shop that I ordered from for the yarn that I sent to my swap partner for the expat yarn swap. And I really love it because I think it's engineering students maybe, or someone who runs it. And so all of their like names and everything are themed around grad school, and I totally love that. So this one, this yarn base, their like sock weight superwash merino base, is called Dissertation. And this one is actually, most of their dissertation is just 100% superwash merino. But this one is actually, these ones are both 80/20 superwash merino nylon. So it's nice because, you know, it's actually got some nylon in it if you want to make socks out of it. So both of these colorways are variations on a theme that they are calling quantum dots. So this one is kind of all kinds of colors. It's a lot of like pinky reds with some other, just a little bit of everything. And I realize it's out of focus, and it's showing up a little bit brighter than what it is in real life. Let's see if maybe I pull it back a little bit. I'd say that's pretty accurate to real life. And this is color number 10 of the quantum dots range. And then this one is primarily blues and greens, but it's also got a little bit of everything else. Oh, too close. That's pretty true to life, I think. And this one is number 11. So how beautiful are these? I feel like they're both, I mean, this one is a little bit pinky, but kind of like last time, I feel like these are both not obnoxiously girly. They're not necessarily, I mean, this one I think is definitely gender neutral. This one is a little pink, but it's definitely not so offensive that like someone who hates pink would probably not want to knit with it. So I'm super excited about these. I haven't decided which one will be the prize for this knit along, and which one will be saved for the future, but it's definitely going to be hard to like resist claiming one of these for myself, but I'm not going to. You guys have heard me say these are both prizes, so now I cannot claim one for myself. But anyway, why this is really cool is because we actually do a lab in the modern physics lab that I teach, which is the lab that I teach late on Tuesdays and Thursdays, involving quantum dots. So what quantum dots are is they're little dots, and they're so small that you start to get quantum effects. And quantum effects happen when things are really small. And I'll try and link to maybe like a Wikipedia article or something about quantum dots. But what's really cool with quantum dots is, like, and this is what we do in our lab, is based on their size, you can get them to emit different colors. So the ones that we have red, orange, yellow, and green. And we shine a blue LED on them because blue light, well, purple light actually, but blue light has more energy than those other colors. So you shine a high energy light on them and you excite an electron up across the band gap. And then the electron falls back down and emits a color of light. So for like the red dots, the reason they emit red light is because of the size of the dot. The physical size of the dot means that it emits red light. Versus like the yellow dots, the physical size of the dot means that it emits yellow light. And the red dots are, oh my gosh, I have to think about this. The red dots are bigger than like the yellow dots, because red light is lower in energy than yellow light, and etc. So anyway, that's really cool. It has a feature in terms of like LED TVs. So it's an actual thing that's important and that matters. And I just thought these were so pretty. So yeah, that's why I chose them. And I'm sure there will be other pieces to the prize, or to the prize as well. I just don't have them yet or haven't figured them out yet. But I'm definitely hoping that I can pick up some stuff at the Fiber Festival that I'm going to at the end of the month. I just didn't want to wait on yarn for that. So I'm sure there will be more. I just haven't gathered it yet. And other knit-alongs that you should look into, and I mentioned this last week, but I will say it again, is the Expat Yarn Cal, run by Mina of the Knitting Expat. And basically the rules from that, if I remember correctly, are just that you knit something with a yarn that's not from where you are or not from where you're from. So like for those of us here in the States, if you knit something with like Opal or Regia, or like, something Canadian, basically something not from the US, you can enter that. So yeah, definitely check that out. I'll make sure to link to that in my notes. And yeah, I guess I mentioned the Fiber Festival, so I'll go a little bit out of order. So the Fiber Festival that I'm going to is coming up. I've mentioned that I'm going to be going to and I have to think so hard when I say this, Powhatan. I'm going to say Powhatan. I'm pretty sure that's not right, but Powhatan Festival of Fiber, on April 30th, and that is now, 3 weeks away, 2.5 weeks away, so it's coming up super fast, and I'm super excited, and it's a little bit closer than I thought it was. I thought it was about an hour from Richmond, but it turns out it's only 40 minutes or so that is even better, especially because, as it turns out, my Canadian pen pal, who's a really good friend of mine, is coming down, and I knew he was coming down to Williamsburg, which is, I think, an hour towards the coast, if I remember right. Him and his family are coming down to Williamsburg, and so they're going to be stopping in Richmond, which is great because I get to see him so rarely. And I thought they were going to be here the weekend after the Fiber Festival, and it turns out they're going to be here that same weekend. So we will probably only be at the Fiber Festival for the morning, grab a light lunch out there, and then head back to Richmond so we can meet them up for dinner. But if anyone from this area, the Richmond, DC, whatever area is going to be going to that, let me know, because I would love to meet you in real life. I'll be there. So yeah, if you're going to be there, let me know, and we can be there together. It'll be great. But yeah, so there's that. And then I guess let's do the question of the week. I feel like I don't have a lot of knitting stuff to talk about, but I also feel like I'm talking really fast. And when I do my chit chat, you'll kind of understand maybe why I don't have a lot of knitting stuff, because I just haven't had a lot of brain power for knitting. But anyway, question of the week. So last week, my question of the week was a plea for suggestions for questions of the week, and I got some really good ones, so thank you very much for that. And so this week, oh my gosh, I'm so bad. I forgot to look up who suggested this. So if you suggested this, I'm so sorry that I forgot to give you credit. But someone suggested to ask, what are your knitting rituals? Or, kind of something like that. So like this isn't like, oh, when you're knitting in the car or when you're knitting because you have a half hour before you have to leave somewhere. This is like when you sit down and you're going to knit, like you're gonna knit. What do you do? Like, do you cuddle up in a blanket and do it while you're watching TV? Do you always like to have a big cup of tea or something? Do you, have a certain favorite spot maybe in your home that you like to knit? Do you like to be listening to a certain type of music? Like, what do you do? Like, what is your like knitting ritual? For me, I typically knit when I'm watching TV because I figure if I'm going to be watching TV, I might as well be doing something productive. And by watching TV, I mean watching Netflix on my laptop. But typically I do that, if I'm going to be knitting. And this is one of those things that, like, how everyone has those like little like things that they're embarrassed to admit, those little like things that they love that they're embarrassed to admit. This is mine, so be nice. But I watch these videos on YouTube that are called ASMR videos, and I forget what ASMR stands for, but it's basically, I'm trying to think of like a good way to describe it. Have you ever been maybe getting your hair cut? I think that's like the easiest one to describe. Or if someone has been like behind you kind of talking to you and it's like they're not close enough that you can feel them, like they haven't brushed up against you or anything, but you kind of sense that they're there, and it kind of gives you those tingles on the back of your neck. That feeling is what ASMR is supposed to like kind of invoke. And so what these people do is they do it through sound and visuals. And so sometimes there's like a whole range of like what you can do. And I'll try and make a playlist maybe of like some of my favorite ASMR videos that like kind of span the scope of what they are, and try and link that just in case you're curious to check them out. Any of the sound ones, you're meant to like have headphones in, and typically it sounds as though someone's very close to you. And sometimes like I will get those tingly feelings, and that's always nice. But for me, most of what it is it's like that it just totally relaxes me. And I think it's because typically the sounds are very soft, they're very repetitive, they're, very kind of like soothing and gentle. And I like that, like, so sometimes when it's at the very end of the night, like 8 o'clock or something, and I'm sitting down to knit and unwind, I like to pop in my headphones and put on one of those videos, because it just kind of, there's the repetitive action of knitting, and then there's like that repetitive kind of noise and movement sometimes on the screen. And it just helps me to kind of relax and wind down for the night. So like I said, I'll try and link some of them. It doesn't work for everyone, but like if you're a fan of kind of like those like guided meditation videos, you might like it. Who knows? Wesley doesn't like them at all, and he just got home, so you might actually see him come up the stairs. Right there. That's him. That's the Wesley. But yeah, he doesn't like them at all, so there's that. So yeah, that's my question of the week, is what are your knitting rituals? I've told you my embarrassing one. What's yours? It doesn't have to be embarrassing, but if it is, that's okay too. We're all friends. So then I had one more thought that's sort of knitting related before I jump into chit chat. And this is kind of inspired by the Wesley. I was showing him the Drakenschwingen socks that I was making, and he was saying how kind of like impressive it is that I can actually, I start with sticks and a ball of string, and I produce socks out of it, and it's kind of this like magical thing where it's like you're just doing this for a while, and then all of a sudden there's socks. And I was like, well, it's just, it's just knitting and purling, like that's all it is, And I realized that that's kind of like a good metaphor for other things in life, like, sometimes we look at like knitted things and we're like, oh my gosh, that's so complicated, I could never do that. And granted, like there are techniques beyond just knitting and purling, but like I'm convinced that if you can knit and purl, and if you can knit in the round, you can knit a pair of socks. That's all it is. It's just that repeated action over and over and over again until you get your desired result. And I realize that's a metaphor for a lot of other things that you do in your life. I've talked a little bit about how I don't like when people assume that like because I do physics and stuff like that, that they're like, oh my gosh, you must be so smart. No, it's just those repeated actions over and over and over again. It's just working hard and studying and doing all of that over and over and over again until you arrive at your desired result. Or, playing an instrument. You just do it over and over and over again. You do the basics, and then you start to work the basics into more complicated patterns. But at the end of the day, all you're doing is just playing the notes. You're just doing it over and over and over again. And that's just something that I'm trying to keep in mind, is that, I can knit socks, and I can knit very intricately cabled socks that a lot of people are like, how? And so when I get frustrated that I can't do something on the first try, I have to just remember that it's just the basics. I just have to keep doing the basic thing, and eventually I will get to that desired end result. Just like with knitting socks. Like, my first couple of socks were horrendous disasters, but I kept doing it and I got better. So maybe if you have something that you're really frustrated at, like how long it's taking you to get good at something, remember that. Look at something that you're good at, like knitting or something, and be like, well, I can produce something great out of just these small basic steps. And you just have to keep doing the basic steps for everything else. Inspirational thought of the day. And with that inspirational thought, I am done with the knitting related things. So if that's all you were here for, thank you so much for hanging around. And I look forward to seeing you next week, hopefully. And if you are curious about the past week in my life, let's talk about that. So I will talk a little bit about last week and then the weekend and then today, because today has just been a whole thing in and of itself. So last week I was just tired all week, and I don't know if it was just the weather, because it had been really nice and springy here, and then it was chilly last week. Like, it was, highs in the 40s and 50s, which granted is normal spring weather, but it was cold compared to how it had been. And so I think that just kind of like threw my body for a loop, and it was like, what are you doing? And I was just tired and kind of run down all week. But good things happened last week. So first awesome thing, and I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I signed up to take a summer class. I'm going to be taking Stats 210, which is Basic Principles of Statistics, over the summer in a month. So yeah, I'm interested to see how it goes, but the nice thing about my job here at the university is that I get free tuition. So if, I might as well take a class, and I'm kind of interested in statistics. So I filled out all the forms, got all of that signed by my boss and everything, and now I will be taking a class. So I'll update more on that as it gets closer. It doesn't start until June, like 14th or 13th or something. It goes mid-June to mid-July. So it's very intense for a month, but I have a little bit of time, before that starts. So I did that. Let's see. My best girlfriend back home got engaged this past week, which is super exciting and a little bit sad because, I want to be there. Like, she sent me a snap of like the ring and everything. And like, she put a really pretty picture on Facebook, or not Facebook, on Instagram of like the proposal that was like like some friend was there and got that picture of it. So it's like, it's so cute, and I'm so happy for her. And like, I totally wish I could be there, like as she's like planning it. I have no idea when the wedding is. I don't know anything about it. I figure I wouldn't start asking her that yet because, I needed to give her a couple days to process. But like, if I was there, I'd be all like, oh my gosh. But like, being here and her being there, it's kind of like, oh, okay, yay. So that's kind of, sad that I don't get to like kind of see that process as she's going through it. But I'm super happy for her, and I'm super excited. And I've never met this guy before because it just hasn't worked out right when I've been in town. So I was like, I guess I need to meet this guy now. But this friend is the same friend that I sent my the Forest for the Trees socks and the Melisandre socks. It's that friend. So so there was that. And then I guess that brings us up to the weekend. Yeah, so that's how exciting last week was it was just kind of this blur of like cold weather and blah. So then the weekend I made cookies for the first time in a long time. I used to be really big into baking, and then since being gluten-free, I kind of have gotten out of baking, and because like gluten-free baking is like witchcraft, and I just don't have the patience for it or the budget. Like some of those flours are super expensive. So I just haven't been, but I found this really great recipe for monster cookies. And if I remember, I'll link it, that are gluten-free. They're not vegan the way the recipe's written, but I definitely think If you were vegan, I think you could substitute like Earth Balance for the butter, and you could probably substitute flax eggs for the real eggs that are in there. And I think it would probably work just fine. But anyway, so those have been super delicious, and I've been super excited about that because it's a recipe that I think if I tweaked it a little bit, like I could make like breakfast cookies out of it. So yeah, so that's been really fun. Wesley and I went and bought a bunch of plants over the weekend because we really wanted to like liven up the space. Like you'll note, so there, right, we hung up a picture finally in here. We're still looking for a picture for this zone here. This zone. But we did hang up a picture there. That's actually a picture that Wesley took, I don't know, Paris? Something. It's like a underground train. It's like the subway. Anyway, but we went and bought a bunch of plants, and Wesley got a tiny little orchid that is sitting here on the desk. So this is his contribution. And then I picked out some succulents, which are in the other room, and a bromeliad. But like I had no idea that orchids are like this huge like thing, that like orchids are like a pet that you have to like take care of, and they have special food and all of this stuff. So yeah, so there's that. And he's like looking into like bonsai trees, which, fun fact, did you know a bonsai tree is just like a normal tree? Like you just start with like a normal tree, either like a baby tree or a sapling or something, and you just don't let it grow big. Who knew? I thought they were a special kind of tree. No, they're just normal trees. So now I keep making this joke that like every time I see normal sized trees, I'm like, look at all of these unkempt bonsais all over the place. Someone needs to deal with this. Yeah, because I'm a dork. So we did that over the weekend, and then I started running again. There was a big 10K race here in Richmond on Saturday, which I didn't run. But I was like, oh, I want to do things like that. And I saw pictures on Facebook. My mom ran a 5K over the weekend. And I was like, I want to do that. So I started running again. I ran yesterday just like up to my office and back, which is like a mile each way. And then went out this morning for like a mile and a half. I bought new shoes. So like this morning was because I wanted to try out my new shoes. But yeah, it's going okay. It's kind of one of those things where I have to keep reminding myself like of that sock analogy where it's like, you just keep doing the basic thing over and over and over again, and eventually you'll get better. So hopefully eventually I'll be a real proper runner. But for now, I'm just getting out and jogging every so often, and I'm excited about it. And then that brings us to today. So today's Monday, so, there's already that strike against it. So I get in today, and I went and talked to my boss, the department chair, and I forget what I was showing him something I'd ordered for a lab. And then he was telling me that there's this trouble with the summer classes. So, right, I'm in charge of the labs, which means I'm not in charge of the TAs, but it means that I have a vested interest in kind of how the TAs are working for the summer. So normally the way that this works is, and this is the way it worked in Nebraska, so I'm kind of assuming this is just how it works most places that have graduate TAs, is you basically get hired on kind of like as an adjunct for the summer. You're not an adjunct, but it's similar, where like, you basically sign a contract that you're going to teach this class, and you get paid, and your contract says that you will get paid such and such amount to teach that class. And that's typically the way it works. That's the way it worked in Nebraska. That's the way it was going to work here. Apparently there's some law now that says that they can't do that they have to pay their TAs hourly. So that's a pain in the butt. I have no power over it. We have no power over it. And we're not even really sure like what exactly it means. I guess they're still kind of sorting all of this out. But I really hope that it doesn't have like negative consequences on the TAs being able to teach this summer. Not only because I have a vested interest in, a certain TA being able to teach over the summer, but also because I don't want to teach over the summer. So, well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see kind of how that works out. So that was the first thing. And then the second thing was I got yelled at by a student today. Not even one of my students. But so like all of our physics labs are in this hallway, and I was not in my office. I was in one of the rooms that didn't have any labs running just because it has windows and I wanted to sit by a window. So there's that room, and then right next to it is another room. And this room had class going on. And so like both the doors were open, but like, it's not like I can typically hear what's going on in there. So I'm sitting there grading, and all of a sudden I start hearing voices from the other room, and like loud voices, and I'm like, okay, I shouldn't be able to hear them in here. This is not good. So I kind of, go out and I poke my head around, the corner into the other lab, and the TA and a student were arguing, and like the student was yelling at the TA, and the TA was like, no, you have to leave. Like, you can't be doing this. You have to, you have to leave. You're not going to be able to do the lab today. And the student was like, no, you can't kick me out. You don't have that power, blah, blah. And so I'm like, well, I do. And he's like, who are you? And I was like, he's like, who are you? I want to talk to the department, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I'm the faculty member here, and you got to leave. I was like, you can't be yelling at the TAs. I don't know what's going on between you and this TA. I don't know what he said to you. I don't know what you said to him. I don't know who started it. I don't care. You can't be in this room anymore, because it's kind of like one of those, like, I don't care who started it. I'm ending it, kind of a thing. So like I pulled him out, and then he's all upset because he feels like this TA has been unfair to him and all of this stuff. And I was like, okay, buddy, I don't know what happened between the two of you. You can't be yelling at him. That's inappropriate. So you're not going to go back in there. If you have a problem, you have to go take it up with the department. So I guess he did go talk to the department chair, but definitely like backed down a little bit kind of as he was over there. But it was just siren. Come on. Come on. Come on. I feel like it takes them forever to like drive by here because they get hung up at a stoplight. There we go. Okay. So that was, not enjoyable. I mean, that's part of my job. And, my focus is like, first priority is like safety of both the students and the TAs. So like, yeah, I don't want to have two people arguing. It's like, nope, that's it. I'm putting an end to it. But yeah, so that was a little bit stressful. And so I think I'm going to get some Thai food tonight and just kind of, chill out from the day. And yeah, I guess that's going to be it. I feel like this has been going long enough, and I'm sorry things were a little bit disjointed. Like I said, I am recording on a Monday. Normally I record on Sundays, but time just kind of like got away from me this weekend. And I had my tutoring yesterday got a little bit weird because like my early one canceled, but then I had a late one added on to the end. So and that ran a little bit late. So by the time I got home, it was like 4:45, which granted is no later than I was recording today, but like it was 4:45, and then Wesley and I were both hungry, and it was, and then just time just got away from us. But it is about 6:00 now. I'm hungry. He's hungry, I'm sure. So we're going to go get some Thai food for dinner, and yeah, just eat the stress away. So thank you for hanging out with me. I appreciate the time, and I hope to see you all again next week. Bye.